Hello, my children. Welcome to the Church of Pentan Podcast, the premier Battle Spirit Saga talk show available on all your favorite podcast platforms. May the cores be our saviors. I'm Espira, your head of service, and joined with me are my apostles, John and Cosmic Cause. How are we doing this week?
We're holding on to just threads of sanity at this point, going a casual 0-69 in Pro Tour testing. It's just been a great time, just having so much fun.
Yeah, that's definitely where it's feeling, and we're definitely going to be touching base about that. And John, how are we this week?
Good. You know, I'm kind of in the same boat as Cause. I mean, not as many losses probably, but just deep in the Pro Tour testing throws and trying out different things.
Yeah, I mean, as your board says, send me your best red deck, right? Just
Yes. Yeah, my team's awful. Need a good red deck just to keep the streak going.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it feels like every event I end up testing 2-3 different decks that I love. I'm like, all right, here we go, playing something different, and then like just get talked into playing red. Mm-hmm. So just looking forward to the same thing happening again.
Yep, 100%. And that's actually going to be a lot of what our conversations are about today. It's going to be a bit of a shorter episode, and this time I say this with the intent that it's for real. John's got to be an adult today, so we can't keep him stuck around for too long, but we'll be a little bit of a Pro Tour pre-chat, just kind of rambles about kind of where we think things are going, how our testing is going. We're not going to divulge too many team secrets, but, you know, just enough to at least, you know, where everyone's heads are at. And then we're going to talk about Purple's dominance. I think there's a big awareness that Purple is tier 0 or the biggest target, and kind of makes sense. Ironically enough, outside of red decks, it's probably the one that got hurt the least by the depths ban. But now they don't have to face the like speed rush of Overraptidon to kind of punish them as hard. So we'll be looking towards those things. Then we'll do guess that flavor text, and then we'll wrap up by just a nice chat of like, who do we think is going to win the tournament? You know, what are the guesses here? A lot of very notable players going to this tournament, so we can go from there. But, you know, to kick off the Pro Tour pre-chat, you know, I know, Kaz, you were talking about how unfortunately your testing's been a little bit rough. You know, what are your takes with the meta? You know what, one thing that, you know, I'll preface a lot, this feels like the launch meta, right? And I mean like the launch meta, if you like even account for the fact that like TD didn't reveal pterosaurs, this feels like pre-pterosaur reveal launch meta for the most part, where it's just like you got purple, Nova, and then like some people keep trying to force white control to work, and then it's just like everything else revolves around that. I don't know. So with that said, you know, kind of how's our prominent yellow green player feeling?
Feeling pretty rough, to be honest, but yeah, you kind of nailed it. That in terms of other people I've been testing with, I mean, nobody really wants to be the guy that's the punching bag of yellow and green players. And bless his heart, Ryan made me just shove up a yellow deck. He's like, hey man, let's test this. I'm like, dude, this is 90-10. Like, come on, don't make me do this. And then I proceeded to just get absolutely dunked on. I'm like, can I please stop? As I'm like shuffling my cards back together. He's like, oh yeah, this matchup is as awful as you say it is. Like, yes, I played a lot of yellow. I know how these matchups go. But really just, I love, well, obviously everyone knows I love yellow. I probably don't have to talk about that too much, but there's still a lot of fun things that I've been enjoying in green that feel like they're almost there. And keep in mind, I'm also doing set 3 testing. So I think part of my head can't be exactly dedicated to the Pro Tour, unfortunately, because I got to do content, right? And that's like making me a little bit biased for it. But like set 3 green is so fun. There's so much cool stuff that you can be doing.
Good. Oh my God.
And then there's set 2 and lore set, and I'm just like, it's just not. Just give me Hurricane Highlands, like just let me slide that in there just to start, and some of the other key cards. Like it's man, it's been rough, but set 3 is super fun. So that's the silver lining to all this. No matter what the next week unfolds, we have just one tournament and it's over, and then we actually get to go on to the really fun stuff. And again, I've been having a ton of fun. I just like put this Red Guardian deck together that is way better than it had any business being. Which was like a total shocker, just accidentally stumbled across something. But again, that doesn't help me for the Pro Tour. So we're hanging on to just, I'm going to try a couple more yellow and green lists, just try a few more iterations, got some good things on paper I want to try out. But man, purple is just good. We're going to be saying that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing. It's the biggest target on its back. It just does well, purple things from set 1 is like just now that like we don't have like Axe Batter kind of gatekeeping that. So I mean, you know, how are you feeling leading up to the Pro Tour, John? How's you know, obviously I think we kind of all have a general idea of like where the meta's at, and we'll be touching base on the Nexus boys and kind of doing their tier list and talking over that. But are you surprised by anything, or it's just kind of, you know what you're going into?
I mean, not really. I mean, there's a couple decks that, you know, we tested. Ryan Valentino built a deck a couple weeks ago that, just something that we wanted to try, and it turned out to be actually really good. So we kind of built on it a little bit, and, it's a contender, but like most teams or groups, I mean, I think it's just basically, we have a good red deck, we have a good purple deck, and we have a pretty good white deck. Like, I feel like any team, if you ask them right now, they'd be like, yeah, we have a good red, purple, and white deck. I mean, that's kind of where, everyone is. Yellow, I think, is fine. I don't think it's like, let's play it in the Pro Tour fine, but I think it's fine. Nothing else really to say about that. Green's also the same way. Like, green and yellow are both kind of in the spot where they're both fine. But when you take into consideration that, this is a good segue into the purple topic, but I personally feel, and I think, my team feels the same way, that purple's probably going to be about half of the Pro Tour. If there's 100 people, I would not be shocked 50 to 55 play some sort of purple deck. I think that maybe another 20% might be red, 25% might be red, and then the rest will just be made up of like, white, yellow, and green decks. So when you're testing, you can't, all these cool decks, it's like, okay, this deck's cool, it's pretty good against red, it's good against yellow and green, but can it beat purple? It's like, purple's kind of rough. Immediately you have to discount the deck. Like, it's not a real deck anymore, because you can't beat the deck that's going to make up half the field. And we had this discussion in Discord as well, in the general channel. It's like, I lost my train of thought now, wherever we were going with this. But the whole point, though, is that if your deck can't beat purple, you can't feasibly play it in the Pro Tour, right? I mean, that's pretty much where everyone is.
Yeah. It also doesn't help that, like, already pre-Pro Tour meta, I think there was a decent disposition of, like, Europeans playing purple, right? Like, you had a Yumu who's, like, basically only ever really played purple. You had Atu who played purple. I think there's a notable amount of players that decide to switch over to pterosaurs, but now that I think there's not, like a predefined list that's like been like curated by Team TD like a couple of goes before people have a chance to kind of jump into the meta. There's like, maybe the default will be jumping back into purple. I already expected EU pre-ban list to be pretty heavy on purple just because of the way they are, and I think even more so now that it's very clearly, it's just like, it has such good game against pretty much everything. Like, like you can take purple into any matchup, and like even in a position where I resolve maybe 1 or 2 Star Blessed, I feel almost the exact, like, they could still win it, and I'd be like, yeah, I could see that happening. Like, it's just,
yeah, and I'll give Kyle a chance to chime in here too. Sorry, but just to make one more point, it's that also when you're testing, you have to take into 2 things into consideration. Like, you have the people who've been playing purple since the launch event, right? You have like Zach, you have like Ryan Miles, there's a few other people like Ayumi, like you said. So if you know that purple's the best deck, if you play purple, you have to know it as well as those people. Like, I don't. So I am not playing purple because I can't beat those people, like, ever in any kind of mirror match. And then there's the red players, right? Like, you have the True Duels team that always plays red since day one. You have some of the Europeans. So, like, if you play red, you have to feel confident that you know the mirror match better than them. Like, if you can't, then, like, maybe you don't play red. So you're just kind of in a weird spot. You kind of just play your comfort deck that you know the best, and just kind of go from there.
Yeah, that's really the part I was going to echo anyways. It's like, we're going into this meta, to Espira's point, like, Ayumu is definitely one of the key players to think about, like, have been playing purple from the start. And I'm sure there's other people that are also going to be there that, like, hey, these people have been playing non-stop purple for 6 months, and they've gone through all the iterations of it. They've gone through all the different formats with it. They are definitely the kings and queens and all in betweens with the format. And for those of us like myself, who I played purple in literally one event, I also can't play purple. Like, I'll do it for testing, because obviously you still want to know like what some of the lines are going to be, and what sequencing they might look to, and like what their average turns look like. But I would go into that event knowing that I'm at just such a back foot compared to, half the field that's of purple. Like, of all the purple players, I'm guaranteed worse than half of them on purple. And that's just not somewhere that I want to be either. It just feels like a really awful spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I played purple in Ohio. And I'm categorically well known as just like someone who jumps decks a lot. I don't think I'm known for like one specific deck. I tend to try like every go. I try something new because I just like to vary up my game style. And it's just like I still think I'm a decent player, but like playing like 4 purple mirrors just felt absolutely miserable, especially as someone who hadn't dunked like weeks of practice into the deck and had played in a competitive event previously. Zach made the point in the Discord very much that like the purple matchup, for me, it's always been like whichever purple player can stick their Nexus usually wins, because you can outgas the other purple deck. But like there's just a few key cards that like if you see, you're so advantaged. But then even beyond that, it's the skill between like, hey, if it turns out you're facing off against a Maduke, how do you pivot around dealing with that Maduke, or be dealing around against the other key cards? How do I not play into a Curse Dragon? Like.
Yeah, it's those mid game lines that the people like like me and Zach are going to see and know. Whereas someone, I use myself as an example. I don't play purple much, so while I know most of the lines and the early plays and whatnot, but if I get into like a complex, board state in the mid game, like I'm going to get outplayed every time. So, for me, that's kind of the deciding factor. Like I can't play purple at this Pro Tour, and I think that our team kind of feels the same way. Is that like, why would we play purple when we can just play red?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I feel that. So I guess before we go too deep into it, if you had to pick between green or yellow, John, which one are you playing at the Pro Tour?
Personally, I mean, I've played green more than yellow, so I'm more comfortable on green. But I think that the blessed spirits right now are better positioned than the swift spirits, just to make a simple comparison. So, probably yellow then, I guess I'd have to say.
Yeah, I do like yellow. I think Godslayer is good. I think Godslayer's, funny enough, I think Godslayer is a better tool in green than it is in yellow right now. But either way, I think you're kind of, yeah, I think they're pretty equal for the most part. I think you could take either or, and I think I'm not saying do so, but I think you're fine.
Yeah, Godslaying is like the yellow answer to Rex, more or less, right? I mean, that's just how you're killing Rex. Godslaying's actually been pretty lacking in testing. I was hoping it'll be better, but it's just kind of mid. It is good against Rex, but most of the time it doesn't do what you want it to do.
Yeah,
like a whole card. It's
a
like
lot.
a big deal.
Yeah, you kind of have to do it on like board breaker positions, right? So it's like maybe you deal with the Rex and maybe the red player doesn't have anything after that. In a lot of things I've been looking at, like if they stick an Enterprise, let's say for whatever reason against the deck I'm playing at, it's actually kind of nice because they'll almost never attack with the Enterprise, so you almost never hit them with the Avalanche. But you'll at least get the advantage that they'll probably want to get a dual block off, and then you can kind of like Godslay and go from there. So I do. The one card is expensive and it hurts, but there are some key matchups where I'm like, this could actually put in a decent amount of work. So it's a weird balance for sure. So to that regard, of course, we've been talking a lot about how like purple's very much tier 0, and to that end, we can take a quick peep over at the Nexus, which, like, huge shout out to them. They're a European-based podcast, so we do love more content around the globe. And I've been enjoying their shows. I think they're on their 3rd episode now, so definitely recommend you guys go check those out. But this time around, they did a Pro Tour meta list, which is kind of nice because John actually highlighted this in the Discord at some point, where it's just like, it's nice and refreshing to have a conversation about the meta, even though everyone is like keeping everything so close to their chest. And it's just kind of tough when like so many of like your content creators are competitive players as well. So like I feel, realistically, between the Pro Tour and then the 2 Grand Opens following, which of course will be fresh meta themselves, so it's just like whichever team breaks those metas, right? It's like legitimately like almost like $100,000 total prize pool across 3 tournaments in 3 weeks, between the 50K of the Pro Tour and the 25K for each Grand Open. So it's just like, it's a huge amount on the line. So it's at least refreshing to have the conversation going. So to that end, when we look at their tier list, we're looking at top tier. You got purple curse dragon combo, whatever. And for what it's worth, we've always said that purple kind of overlaps. Like, would you be shocked to see a Maduke in a curse combo deck? No, not really. Then you got Nova up here, which I do think Nova is obviously better without Axe Spider, but is it top tier? Who knows? And then in the good tier, you got Terras, you got white machine beast control, you got curse aggro, lower the ground. You got white aggro. In the okay category, we've got yellow, primarily like the Fabled Beast Shell. In May, you got like Canyon Green. I think this is like Tokiwa, Volcanic Canyon, good stuff, which like can be fine. And then you got the cheeky stuff, which is like green aggro and a yellow luster. And for the most part, I think they're generally bang on. Someone made the comment in another Discord I'm in that this just looks like the launch meta, which I said earlier. This very much looks a lot like the launch meta, which just goes to speak to the power level of set one. But I think my only question mark here is that I definitely think purple kind of stands on its own at the very top. You drag Nova down to like good, and then I think for the most part I'm in agreement with kind of what this looks like.
Yeah, no, totally agree. I mean, I think Nova drops down to good. I personally feel, I mean, obviously I'm biased, but my own testing results have shown that Nova is worse than Pterosaurs. Even with the OV ban, I still think Pterosaurs is better. Just because it's a better Scorched Battlefield deck.
Mm-hmm.
White aggro I probably wouldn't put on good at the moment, just because it basically can never beat purple. So it's probably just on the okay line. But that's just probably nitpicking. I also think that I'm a Duke, like that deck, similar to like the Mata Sack deck from like Tulsa. That deck's probably just in the okay column right now, because it just, again, can't beat core control like ever. Otherwise, I mean, this was a really good list, and the whole conversation was very good. I mean, I don't know if people know, but the two people in the middle on that picture there with the purple background is M. He second place, maybe top 4 in one of the, or maybe 2 of the European Grand Opens, and then Kieran, the third person down, Sinclairic on the Discord. He has several top 16 finishes himself, so they're really good players. I don't know the other 2 guys, but just from listening, they're very good players. Seem like they know what they're talking about, and I feel like this list was very well done.
Yeah. Anything that kind of fancies you, Cause, or do you feel like this just looks about right?
No, I think it's pretty spot on. I mean, because you had asked John earlier, and I'm just going to agree with it. It's like between the two of yellow and green, I'm definitely going to put yellow to a slight advantage, if only because overall people are cutting back on things like Burning Force. So you do just randomly have games where Blessed Cathedral just gets to run away, and then you get so far ahead it doesn't matter anymore. But overall, Dual Eagle is still good. Dual Eagle is still a guy. Joker is still good. But the large question mark around the rest of it is like, what does the rest of the deck look like? I did get a chance to test a little bit of the set 3 deck with Genbu, and it is really great because you get the extra unblockable, then you have blessed unblockable and all that stuff, and you can actually don't feel bad running Flying Turtle and all that stuff. But by itself right now, Fabled Beast in general feels like it's in this awkward spot where like you want to do Blessed Cathedral and Tin Man to get the value, but then you don't have enough Fabled Beast for the Nexus. And then it's like, oh, am I just running Blessed Cathedral and some other package? So it just really feels like yellow doesn't have that one cohesive list that it really wants to shine with. And it's just a lot of like, okay, I want to play yellow, or I'm forcing myself to play yellow. Here's some good cards I'm throwing in the deck, and I hope it does something. And Godslaying has been cute. I'll also agree with John. Like, it was, I thought it was going to be a lot better than what it ended up being. I think it's still fine, and it's something that yellow lists are going to be playing, but it's something that was not enough, or did not give yellow as much of a boost as I was probably just coping for, right? But I think yellow is just in the very okay tier. Like, I would not be surprised at all if someone hits top 16 with yellow, no doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, it still has really good cards. It's just doesn't seem like it's a fleshed out cohesive deck. It's just like kind of on the back of 3 or 4 cards, right? I mean, You have Hippo, Eagle, Blessed Cathedral, probably Phantasmal Paradise somewhere. So basically it's their Nexuses and their blessed guys. I mean, that's it. It lives and dies by those cards. So maybe someone can play a weird mid-range deck similar to like Allende's deck from Ohio and do something weird with it. I mean, I know he was playing like
That was like a
1,000 cards in his
60
deck.
card pile, right?
Yeah.
That's like 58, I
He
think.
So,
had
like,
like, is that the one that had like the Nova in it, and it had the
I don't think he had
Nomengard?
Nova, but he had Depths, Nomengard,
Yeah.
you know, a handful of other things, and you know, he got second with it.
Mm,
And I think with fewer breaks in the meta now, obviously that you know your Eagle will live a lot more. But then you're like, oh wait, purple exists, and purple has so many like removal spells for all of your blessed guys now. And you know, if you can't get them through, then you know, like I know that there's the Harpy Palace, but if they kill your Eagle, it doesn't really matter what you put the cores on. You know
hmm
what I mean? Uh, but still, I mean, it's an okay deck. I think it's perfectly placed on the tier list. But like Cos was saying, I don't think I'd be shocked at all if one got like 12th place.
Sure. Yeah. So to kind of return on the whole like white aggro just kind of like loses to purple and stuff. It's always an interesting conversation to me that like, you know, core control is a control deck, and typically, or control, it's more like mid-range control, let's say. And you know, those kinds of decks usually full to aggro, but what we've noticed is like, you know, when a lot of like Terrorsaur players who don't understand the matchup would just kind of like run guys into purple and purple core control and like lose it out that way. Or the notion that like white aggro has a tough time against purple. And I guess my question to that is is the idea behind why it ends up playing that way, that like because like purple is just constantly loaded with like card draw on sticks, removal on sticks, so they can kind of like 2-for-1 on like consistently. Like is that kind of why that plays out that way? Or
Yeah, I mean that has a lot to do with it. I mean,
Mhm.
Curse Dragon's one of the main things
True.
too. Is that White Aggro has a hard time dealing with Curse Dragon because you have to go wide. Let's see, Lamorak is like another new card that really, you know, stunts White Aggro's game plan. Of course, Beldegor. You know, there's more Beldegors floating around now. You know, decks play 3-4, you know, Beldegors now when they were just playing maybe 2 before. It's just the card quality of purple, where it's like every card either kills one of your guys or just makes more cards for them. You know, there's so many things that can go wrong. So you're forced as white to either, you know, play 12, 16 free units, you know, free spears to try to get through all that, or, you know, you just, I don't know. I don't think there's anything you can do to really
Mhm.
beat purple with white aggro right now, unless you just rebuild the whole deck to go more mid range.
Yeah. Are we as worried? So like naturally there was the ban list, impacted a lot of things for the Pro Tour. And you know, like we're scared of purple going into the Pro Tour. But I mean, looking beyond the Pro Tour, are we and you know, there's always the additional fact that a lot of us are testing for these tournaments, and we're kind of trying to keep things close to our chest, at least until we have, you know, data, and then everyone can kind of get an idea of what the meta is looking like. Are we concerned about purple going into set 3, or do we think between like Green Gale and like Blue Mill and whatever that there's enough tools to mean that's not so bad? Because like I've watched Daniel like run core control into like set 3 decks, and it does pretty good. So is it, are we concerned or worried, or do we feel fine? Like naturally we don't have data to work off with, but in terms of like kind of where we're seeing set 3 land.
I mean, I think a lot of it too is we have to still wait and see where things like shark control is going to land, because that might be the new purple, right? Because I think just Impaler Forest and blue shenanigans is going to be really strong. But I definitely think those are the two things to kind of look out for and see how they're going to impact the meta. I think no matter what, going into set 3, you have to be conscious of just how good core control is. But I don't think it's anything to be, you know, alarmed about yet by any means, just to say how the rest of the meta is going to evolve around what blue has to offer. Because again, at the end of the day, blue is getting some insanely strong cards. And I don't think Mill is going to be exactly where I want it yet, but there are some other good control options in blue that might lend itself well. And then you just have this awkward stalemate of, you know, shark versus curse combo and see how that all unfolds. But I think it'll be really interesting to say at least. Like, again, for me, the biggest thing is that we just finally have all 6 colors, and mono blue isn't really going to be a thing yet until probably set 4, but at least it's, you know, some blue deck I'm sure is going to do well at the first Grand Open. Maybe not win, but I wouldn't be surprised if it gets up there, you know, some top 16 shenanigans.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I don't think, at least in my limited testing, I mean, I don't think purple's like overwhelmingly tier 0 going into a set 3 format, mostly because, in my opinion, like they gained like approximately 0 cards in set 3 that make their deck.
Yeah.
And it's
Yep.
very poor set 3, for purple
Mm-hmm.
as a whole. I mean, there's some cards that might find some place, but just as a whole, it's pretty lacking. With an addition of a new color, I think that might balance it out somewhat. So we'll see. I think that, just like Cos was saying with Shark, that kind of keeps it in check a little bit too.
Mm-hmm.
Just once they build their wide board of like Beldegor, Lamorak, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, I feel like, okay, we're your Shark. That kind of just starts them back over from step 1. So, I think purple's still obviously tier 1 deck going into set 3. It's just I don't think it's tier 0 like it is presently with this, lure set meta with one event. So, going back to my point earlier, I kind of just remembered what I was going to say was that, we were talking about spending all this time playing this lure set meta, and it's for one event, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I've spent like 40 hours or more, like just testing this meta, and like for what? Like for one event, right? And then it's just all goes away. So,
And it goes away in a very real way, right? It's not like after the Pro Tour, it's like an expansion set that might change a deck. It's like literally the entire meta is different, and it's just like all of my testing is essentially useless right after the Pro Tour, which for a lot of people, it's like the week after they're jumping to a Grand Open.
It's like, here's a new color, but like more importantly, it's like, here's Floodstream. So it's like all these decks that are good now, like Pterosaurs, et cetera, like Floodstream just makes them play so much differently. So we'll see how it shakes out, but I wouldn't be surprised to see purple win like one of these next 2 Grand Opens after the Pro Tour, but I think there would be probably going to be more diversity overall. So
Yeah, totally agree. So, purple's so strong. So I think in general, kind of a lot of kind of where we figured things would land if we ever did get a ban list has kind of shaken out and landed. It is funny how close it's coming to the launch event meta. But at the very least, we're not stuck playing like depths mini games anymore, right? It's just very much just like, okay, it sucks, in terms of the meta, not much has changed, but at least now it's like very clear cut, good solid play. Maybe a couple of tech choices here and there can kind of help you decide your run.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it is basically, come to think about it, I never really thought about it, like this, but it is a launch event meta, like I guess now, right? Because you have red aggro, white, purple. Yeah. I guess so.
And then cause here committing to like green or yellow, which is like, if I can just fade red all day.
I mean, fading red is a better plan than like playing a deck that just auto loses
the purple. Yeah.
So, if you have to dodge red, you might be able to get away with it for the most part. But if you go in thinking, man, if I can only dodge purple, that's going to be a long day.
A very long day, dude. You're going to be, you could be 0-5 down in table 90 and still be playing purple. Like
playing in the battle round.
Hey, that was my launch event where I went 5 of my 7 rounds against Nova. So I've already done that once. Why not? Just do the purple version.
Yeah, you're so versed in the matchup now.
I think we can all, as John was saying, I think we can all agree, like, even if it is only for one single event, and obviously, I've been testing more for this event than I've actually had in the past, just because how it's lined up. But at least it feels better to play, even if it goes back to, as Espira mentioned, goes back to like the launch meta. It does feel like we are playing, old format plus a little splash of something. My God, I've never been happier to not have to just worry about the depths mini game and just have a game go, all right, well, I guess this is over. Let's go to the next game. So, God, that has been so refreshing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's been pretty refreshing. Like this format, despite only being one event for it, it has been fun, and the stakes are high. So it is at least worth it, right? Because there's people playing for Worlds Invites. There's people, we're all playing for several thousands of dollars. So the stakes are high, so it makes it, a little more fun overall. Plus, it's in a different country, so we want to obviously do well as Americans, over on their turf. So
yeah, 100%. So, with that said, of course, you'll be seeing all of us as well as numerous Americans. The conquest is coming over, so if you guys are planning on attending the Netherlands Pro Tour, feel free to say hi. I think we're all landing on Friday, which for the most part, I think we'll just get situated. But
I land Friday morning at like 8. Like my flight leaves from Philadelphia on Thursday at like 7 p.m. and it lands in Amsterdam at like 8 a.m.
Or am I dumb and I arrive Thursday? I don't know. I'll figure it out.
They got me trying to fill in my ticket.
Yeah, like
everyone was Thursday.
Yeah, I guess we're arriving Thursday. Oops. Either way, we're gonna be there, so definitely say hi. And hopefully we'll be able to chit chat and maybe do a live show also, which could be interesting. Not a live show, at least an in-person show, which could be interesting. So we'll see if we can line up on site. Yeah. So with that, and there is the notion that now I'm thinking back on it. We haven't talked about event packs, but I think we'll save that for conversations as we jump into maybe talking about how we're going into the next goes. TLDR, the stamps are cool. I don't like the card picks, but we can jump into those conversations later. Jumping into now, we got Guess That Flavor Text, the little game show segment where I go and propose a piece of flavor text to our apostles and give them the opportunity to be able to guess. They'll also have a couple of lifelines. And if they can guess it, kudos to them. Last week was what? Was it? I don't remember what last week was. Because that one caught you. Oh, it was the raccoon. It was the raccoon.
Yeah. Raccoon guard.
So now let's see if John or Cosmic can get this one. And for what it's worth, kudos to them because they do a pretty good job. They do better than I do for sure. So this week's flavor text. Oh, I'm gonna have to fix that on the screen. Oop, there we go. Fighting began with a total rout at the hands of the Imperial Army's golems. However, combat soon became a quagmire. The Phantasm, our kingdom's primary forces, could freely traverse the gates to the Dark World and were adept at guerrilla warfare. Imperial Chronicle, it says Yeed, but year 253, page 211.
253.
Yeah.
Okay, so this has to be a vanilla because that is a lot of text.
Good guess, yeah. Good guess.
Guess that's probably a purple card. Phantasm. Well, maybe it's a curse guy.
Curse is a small keyword that fits just at the top.
Yeah, that has like one line of text. Like what's that guy's name? Like Zagreus or something. That purple.
You can go for a lifeline if you like, or you can lock in one of your answers. It's up to you.
Nah. Let's just go for a lifeline. Let's see.
All right, it is a 4 cost.
Oaken Pandal?
You want that? I mean, it's up to you. Oaken Pandal is a purple card.
No, it does not have much flavor text on it, though. It's the only one that came to mind, but it's oh no, what is his name? Oh man, I don't know without looking it up.
I'm trying to think of the 4-cost purple vanillas. Like this is a set 1 card. It's got to be set 1. Like something from a starter deck. Like, but I can't think of any 4-cost vanillas from the starter deck.
I would like to guess it's. Before you go to give the lifeline, I want to guess if it's the card I'm thinking of that I can't think of the name of by saying what its family type is.
Sure.
John, do you have anything though yet?
No.
Is it Shadow? The 4-drop Shadow?
No, so it is not. So moving on to the lifeline,
no.
It is a Darkling.
Darkling, so it can't be set 1 then. There weren't any Darklings in set 1. Right?
Was there not? No. Was there not a Darkling in set 1?
Show I don't play purple.
I don't think there's any Darklings in set 1 because set 1 had like shadows and serpents and a couple other random types.
Isn't Imp a Darkling?
Nightling.
No,
because it doesn't work with the Nightling archetype.
Oh, are those not the same thing?
No.
Oh my god.
Nightling and Darkling are obviously different. Come on.
Clearly.
Night and Dark are very different things.
Yeah, my bad, boys.
Man, so is it a set 3 card? Man, if it's a set 3 card, I got nothing.
See, I thought it was because Imperial Army's Golem is a set 3 reference, but I don't remember. Wait, what type did you say it was again?
It's like Darkling.
Darkwing Duck. I don't know. Darkling.
That's why I'm confused. Like it feels like it would be a set 3 because I don't think the Imperial Army's Golem is referenced before set 3.
Gonna need
But
a
I don't
Gonna
know
need a
purple.
commitment, boys.
I got nothing. I thought I might have had a guess, but then the family threw me off. So
Cosmic, anything?
No,
boys,
feel
you're
back,
gonna
I
be
feel like
you're
this-
gonna be
this should
so
have been mine.
you're gonna be so upset with this, boys, but especially John, because it's both hands.
I swear to God, I was going to say both hands, but that's the only card I can think of from set 3. I just didn't say it.
Yep. It is very intense.
I got too stuck on the Arch Kingdoms because that's a set 1 reference to the Duke that got brought up a lot. And the Imperial's army should have brought me back around to set 3 quicker.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah, it is.
Now I have to look something up. It said it was a Darkling.
Yeah.
I'm curious how many Darklings actually exist. 3.
3 Darklings. Okay.
3
What are the other
Darklings. So there is one in set 1 actually. Stray Soul.
Oh,
That's a
right.
Darkling from set 1.
It's another vanilla, right?
well,
or does it remove a core?
that's the remove a core draw guy.
It has a
okay.
win summon effect, yeah, and it's a starter deck card. And then set 2 has Slimy.
Yep, that's the
Yeah.
2 reduction vanilla.
So one
That's
is
the
set. There we
vanilla,
go.
3 cost vanilla. And
See,
then,
now I know
there's
these
both
random
hands.
cards that nobody has ever heard of or what they do, but yeah.
And both hands. Yep.
So I guess one question here, right? So something that was really cool that I had been told to by a few lore masters about battle spirits back in the day was that this applied to every card, but generally speaking, in the card's art, the amount of gems you saw on the spirit kind of associate to how much reduction the actual card had, which I thought was a super cool reference. Obviously, because they're using old art now, that kind of doesn't associate 1-to-1. How viable would both hands be if it had 4 purple reductions?
Wasn't it for cost, not reduction?
It was for reduction, I think. Or
I think
either
it's-
or. If it's a free 4-drop in a deck that obviously can run like Beldegor and stuff like that, right? Like, do we care about that?
For 4K in purple, though, that's actually hitting kind of a nice spot. If it's free plus a 4K one.
Well, I was curious about something. Sorry, since you said the core thing, I wanted to look up a card that I know has some number of cores. That doesn't help us because it has the same cost and reduction. Anyway, I don't know, something like that. But both hands would also be not viable at all if it had 4 purple reduction.
Yeah.
I still think it costs too much, even with four reductions. Like we already have
The
4
elephant
drops
with
with 4 reduction, right? Yeah. So, I mean, I think if it was a 3 cost with 3 reduction, it's like now we're talking. But 4 with 4 reduction. I mean, there's a red card that has 4 reduction, and we still don't
Doesn't
play
see
it.
play. That is true. Yeah.
So.
100%.
Yeah, Awaken will have its day. Hold on. One of these days, it'll matter.
I think there's the benefit that you get like immortal. So like maybe there's a world in which like you can do like free 4-drop into immortal stuff, but even then, man, I don't think it kind of pans out. For when you get in the realm of like free bodies, but they cost 4, so you need to account for having 3 reductions on board, that can get pretty tough. But in terms of art, our favorite Reptoids, so he's a 3 cost with 1 little gem on his back with 1 reduction. I'm not saying the associates perfectly in BSS. There's very much just a battle spirits thing from what I heard. But man, I can't look at Reptoids, man. They're so goofy.
Yeah. Like I think, because Dilophosa is a 3 cost with 2 reduction, and it has 4 gems on it. So I mean,
in original battle spirits, he actually has 4 reductions.
Okay, so maybe that's what it is.
Yeah,
then. Okay.
Someone actually pulled him up. He actually does have 4 reductions. Yeah.
They tricked us. Well, I can't be held responsible for being tricked. So I guess that's hard to dispute that.
So with that said, like we said, we are keeping it a little bit shorter today, especially given that, we're kind of trying to tie up some knots as we lead to the Pro Tour, but to kind of put a little bow on it. There's been conversations about the best player in the game since the last Pro Tour. Essentially, Caleb cannot attend this tournament, and there's the notion of like, hey, is Caleb a one trick pony? And I think a lot of players kind of fall into that category over the past first year, the first season, first 6 months of Battle Spirit. So there's a lot of players in contention that we had talked about before. Blandon, Valentino, Matas. You can make an argument for Zach or Yumu or even Daniel, who's gone like traveling and getting a bunch of Grand Open tops recently. So if we had to put on the line a player who we think would win the tournament, and let's exclude ourselves because I know we'd all love to pin ourselves into that position. Who would you predict is going to take down this tournament? And we'll start with Cosmic and make our way around.
So I'm going to be biased, and this just goes off of more so past game knowledge and whatnot, but I got to give it to Alex Blandon. One, he's just been traveling a ton, and I know the guy is just an absolute machine when it comes to previous games he's done well in. Obviously, he did well going all the way back to the launch event and just continues to perform well. Minus the yellow nap that he took for one of the events, right? We'll exclude that one, but I think that if I had to just pick someone, just again based on sheer past history and they're taking also into consideration the run in Battle Spirit Saga, for me it's got to be Blandon all the way.
Mm-hmm. How about you, John? Where are you landing?
Yeah, I mean Alex is definitely the hottest player right now, right? I mean he's made top or won the last like 4 or 5 events he's played in, so it's hard to bet against him. But I mean, I also know that, Ryan Valentino, like he's kind of the same way, either top or win like every event basically. So, I would probably be like disowned if I picked against my own team. So just because Cos picked Alex, I'm going to say Ryan.
All right.
Okay, so you have to pick someone else too. You get a special 2 shout out because I think it is a little bit cheap to just take a TD member.
So if I had to pick a non-teammate,
sure,
and if I can't pick myself, then I'd probably say Ryan Matas. Ooh. He is probably the most consistent Battle Spirits player, like not close. So I mean, I think the worst he's ever finished in a tournament is like 9th. So and he's played in all of them since Palm Springs. So with that kind of track record, I mean he's got to get one at some point, right? So, I'm again, if I can't pick my own team, so Alex, Ryan, if you listen to this, don't get pissed at me.
Just blame me, it's okay.
Yeah, we'll say Matas.
Yeah, I like that line of thought. I'll actually probably go Zach Bell. I like what Zach gets to or lives with Matas, so they get to play each other all the time. But now you put him in a position of being in a purple dominant meta where he is the king of a mirror. Like you see this guy like play in the mirror match and he just like eviscerates it. Like he completely understands what's happening. But plus and mind you, like, yes, purple mirrors can go to time, but you add the fact that he doesn't have to fight against Axe Spider and like turning his deck into a beat Axe Spider game 1. Half my side deck is also more additional like Axe Spider tech, and you can focus on doing what purple stuff likes to do. I think you're in a really good position as like a purple dominant player in previous metas to kind of like really kind of take it to the limits here, especially as while I do think other decks can win games against purple, did lose out some really good tools to kind of like, Overaptidon to kind of really put on the pressure with Scorch and stuff like that. So I think in that same realm, you got a player who can play every single day against Matas. I think my pick is probably going to land on Zach, but again, I would not be shocked if like Valentino or like Alex or whatever kind of took it down. So it's kind of where I land. I think at the end of the day, good players are good. I think we've had a and not only are they good, they're consistent. I think a lot of the best players in the game right now are consistently really good at this game. Consistently can perform and get into the top cut positions, which means like you can land any of those picks. And honestly, I'd be like, yeah, probably.
Yeah, I mean, if you go back and look at the top 16 out of like all the Grand Opens, it's usually like the same people, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, like 12 of the 16 players are basically the same every time. So, if you go down to 32, it's even more clear. So, I feel like anyone out of those top 32 consistent players could win the event because I think there's not a lot separating. So, I mean, this kind of came up in Discord earlier too, where you have like your 3, 4, 5 players who are like 10 out of 10, rarely make mistakes, like the best of the best. But then after that, I think 9s, 8s, 7s, 6s, well, maybe not 6s, but like the 9s, 8s, and 7s, I don't think there's a lot separating those players. I think it comes down to like, pretty much matchups, right? So you just have to kind of get lucky to spike an event, and then I think anyone could come out on top. There's probably, I think Alex said this in Discord earlier too, there's probably 5, 6 players that are like basically playing for like the best player. I mean, if they win the event, like if Matos wins, if Alex wins, if Valentino wins, like it's hard to argue that they aren't the best player in the game right now. That could change in season 3, but winning a Pro Tour is a big deal. So we'll see.
Especially and to go back to your point about like how it's just like, the top 30 most consistent players, you wouldn't even be shocked to see one of them kind of make like a hot run, go all the way. It's like every North American Go I've been going to since like the past 3 we've had, after round 4, you look at top tables, I'm like, this is disgusting. Like these are the scariest top table Swiss tables I've ever seen in my life. Cause it's like every single person up to like table 10 has like top the Pro Tour, top the Grand Open, won the Pro Tour or the Grand Open. It's just like, what the heck is going on here?
Yeah, I mean, the Pro Tour will be no different. Like going in the round 4 of the Pro Tour, look at the top 10, 12 tables. And like you said, it'll be like Grand Open winner, Pro Tour top 4, like, 1,000 Grand Open top 8s all around the way. And like, I think that's great. And the best part is that all those players are really cool to talk to. So, I don't smoke, but I love going outside at these events just to hang out and talk with the players because it's always fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, big kudos to kind of like the top tier players, 100%. I love talking with everyone here. It feels like it's a deviation to actually have someone who's unpleasant to talk to, which is definitely a nice bonus. So huge shout out to our community on that front. But with that said, we did say we were going to keep this one a little bit short this week. So once again, thank you everybody for joining the Church of Pentan podcast. We'll be again, not next week. We are missing out on 1 week as I will be traveling and then everyone else will be traveling. So we'll be making our way there, but we'll see about throwing together an episode right following the Pro Tour. So with that said, once again, if you are going to the Pro Tour, say hi, wave, always not to chat. And we're excited to see all of you soon in the Netherlands. And hopefully there's a stream and then we can be able to chat and kind of see all that fantastic stuff go down. But with that said, enjoy your week, everybody. And may the cores be our saviors.